Monaghan.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'd like to congratulate my honourable friend, the member for East Kilbride, Strathaven and Lesmahago, on winning this debate today. She has raised an issue that touches the hearts and minds of many people living in Scotland and indeed the rest of the UK. We have heard powerful arguments, Mr Chairman, that have attempted to give voice to the plight of young dogs that have been bred in appalling conditions, removed from their mothers early and transported sometimes thousands of miles to be sold as pets to unwitting owners that are ignorant of the suffering and torment the new member of their family has experienced. The Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee, of which I am a member, has recently reported on greyhound welfare. While conducting that inquiry, my colleagues and I encountered many accounts of dogs being bred in poor conditions and smuggled across borders for sale as puppies, while other animals, having been deemed unfit or too old to raise, were transported abroad for breeding or other activities so horrific that I can scarcely begin to imagine their torment. We live in a cruel world, Mr Chairman, and I know the Minister takes a very keen interest in animal welfare. Backstreet breeding is the unregistered, unauthorised and unlicensed breeding of dogs. It is much in common with puppy farming. Unseen but commonplace across the UK and elsewhere, mothers live miserable lives in sometimes squalid conditions and are forced to produce litters repeatedly without respite so that their puppies can be sold for easy money. Exhausted and under-socialised, these dogs are all too often thrown onto the streets once they have served their purpose. My honourable friend from Inverness, Badenoch, Strathspey and Nairn has noted that puppy farming has been illegal in the UK since the 1970s. Anyone involved in large-scale production of puppies without being licensed or without fulfilling licence conditions can already be prosecuted under existing UK legislation. Scotland, as we have heard, has taken additional steps through our Animal Dealers Regulation 2009 Act to further restrict the sale of young dogs and to ensure the welfare of any puppies that may pass through a dealer or pet shop. The Battersea Breeding Report on breeding licensing exposes the ineffectiveness of the current system. The law currently says that a licence is required if more than 5 litters in a year are produced and or if dogs are sold commercially. This report notes there are currently only 895 licensed dog breeders in the UK. 40% of those breeders are located in just 6% of local authority areas. Only 1/3 of local authorities do not have any licensed breeders. 90% of licence applications in a year are renewals rather than first-time applications. The licence fees vary greatly from £23 in Glasgow to £741 in Lambeth. Only 12 licensed breeders are registered in London, a city of over 8 million people, on which an average of 1/4 or 2 million are dog owners. Less than 12% of puppies born in the UK each year are bred by licensed breeders, and licensed breeders produce an estimated 67,000 puppies each year. These facts beg the question, Mr Chairman, as to what the current system is for, given that it is clearly not achieving what is expected. Nevertheless, it has been identified that the trade in puppies within England and Scotland has significantly increased over the last 10 years. The main areas concerned relate to the importation of pups into Scotland from Eastern Europe and IRA. The Scottish Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals advises me that pups from Eastern Europe are predominantly high-value breeds such as British Bulldogs, Pugs and French Bulldogs. And these are points that have been made by the Honourable Member for Penistone and Stockbridge and the Member for Poplar and Limehouse, noting that countries involved include Romania, Hungary and Lithuania. The average price of a pup imported from Eastern Europe is between £1,000 and £1,500. The increase in imported dogs from IRA is most notable in new crossbreeds such as Labradoodles. Research shows that a large number of dog breeding establishments have been established throughout the Republic. Premises are both licensed and unlicensed for the purpose of breeding, and some are known to have in excess of 1,000 breeding bitches. This is dog breeding on an industrial scale, Mr Chairman. Evidence obtained by the SSPCA reveals that pups are being transported from the Republic through the north of Ireland and into Scotland via ferries at Cairnryan, a point made by my honourable colleague from South Antrim. From there, they are transported throughout the UK with little consideration given to welfare by dealers intent on making profit. Pups can become ill very quickly, often with fatal consequences among a group of animals with already compromised health due to breeding conditions, lack of vaccination and stress having been removed from their mothers at an early age, a point made very eloquently by the Honourable Member for Merioneth. Enforcement by the SSPCA has evidenced efforts by breeders to maximise the value of their pups by subverting attempts to trace dogs back to the Republic. Pups are not, for example, being microchipped, which is a legal requirement in the Republic, and are not being vaccinated. Unvaccinated pups, as we've heard, are at risk from developing diseases, most commonly canine parvovirus. Risks also increase where pups are held in poor conditions, such as the boot of a car, or become stressed through transportation, change of circumstance and/or diet. Pups are being sold in Scotland to consumers who are being told that the pups have been bred in Scotland or England. To promote this, bitches, often not the parent bitch, are being transported with pups by breeders. Once the pups are sold, the bitches are returned to the breeder to enable further breeding. Within the illicit trade, Mr Chairman, these bitches are referred to as show bitches. The motive, of course, is money. Pups are believed to be purchased in Ira, for example, as little as €50 and sold in the UK for up to £700. Pups originating in Eastern Europe are also believed to be purchased for as little as €50 and sold in the UK for up to £1,500. A recent investigation by Dogs Trust, as we've heard, showed that vets in Lithuania and Hungary freely admit falsifying information on pet passports, on vaccinations, for example, and that breeders and dealers regularly transport underage puppies to the UK, as noted by the Honourable Member for Southend West. Dogs Trust also found that passports are issued by vets for puppies they have not seen, that the age of puppies are changed to evade contravening the pet travel scheme, dogs banned under the Dangerous Dogs Act are being brought into the country, and false vaccination stamps are added indicating rabies vaccinations have been given to puppies when they are not actually being administered. Again, a point made eloquently by my honourable friend from Merioneth. Worryingly, the scale of profit and rapid turnover means that organised crime groups are known to have become involved in the puppy trade to exploit the potential for making profit from offences with relatively low risk and penalties, and also as a means of laundering proceeds of other crimes. Again, a point made by the Honourable Member for South Antrim. Eurogroup for Animals has suggested that puppies are the third most valuable illegally traded commodity in the EU after narcotics and arms. And the Honourable Member for North Durham has quite rightly highlighted the importance that we should place on tackling organised crime. The Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals estimates that between 700,000 and 1.9 million puppies are sold in the UK each year from all sources. The RSPCA also claims that criminal gangs can earn more than £2 million annually from the puppy trade, costing the Treasury millions in unpaid tax and costing the animals concerned significantly greater hardship, a point made by my honourable friend from Rutherglen and Hamilton West, who also noted that animal welfare is devolved to Scotland, and the Scottish Government has used its powers to good effect and has initiated a review of existing companion animal welfare legislation, including legislation on the breeding and sale of dogs, and is developing long-term options for further work in this area. My colleagues in Scotland are at the forefront of animal rights, and from 6 April this year it will be compulsory for all dogs in Scotland to be microchipped. The European Parliament last month also introduced new resolutions to end the illegal trafficking of pets. This will ensure that microchipping of pets across the member states of the EU is more harmonised, so that pet microchips across the EU can be more easily compared and to produce more compatible databases. A range of additional measures are being considered to enhance the powers of local authorities and to make breeders identifiable and accountable. Scotland's voluntary sector has not been found wanting either, Mr Chairman. The Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Special Investigations Unit has been collating intelligence and targeting offenders in an attempt to disrupt and reduce the illicit trade in dogs bred for sale. including, and this is important, with the devolved assembly in Northern Ireland, as noted by the member for Strangford. Nevertheless, the ease and popularity of internet has meant that the impulse buying of pets has in many ways become an even more pressing issue. There is little accountability, as we've heard, Mr Chairman, for such online sellers, and often web adverts are a front for puppy farms with highly questionable welfare standards. The problem is exacerbated by the ease of acquiring a pet shop licence, which is often used by puppy dealers to distribute animals for sale, rather than regulating the traditional high street pet shops. How can we effect change in the UK context? I think, first of all, we've heard principally from the member for Strangford that we need a public awareness campaign. We've also heard that an outright ban on the sale of puppies through licensed pet shops would be perhaps the simplest, cheapest, most effective and easily enforceable means of making a significant and swift improvement to the welfare of thousands of dogs and puppies. My honourable friend from East Kilbride, Strathaven and Les Mahago has also noted that a ban on the sale of puppies under 8 weeks old would also help. The introduction of a required breeding licence for any household producing 2 or more litters has been suggested by the honourable member for Southend West. And a system involving a single animal establishment licence could be introduced applied equally to online and offline sellers of dogs. The list of registered and licensed sellers could be publicly accessible and ideally centralised so that potential buyers can check the credentials of breeders. Website sellers could be required to enter the licence number as a mandatory field on adverts so that each potential buyer can see this. And we also need revisions to the pet travel scheme, as we've heard. These measures, all of them, Mr Chairman, would be consistent with the proposals outlined in DEFRA's consultation issued at the end of December 2015, which concerned the breeding of dogs. However, the key message remains a simple one. Anyone considering buying a puppy should only do so if they can see it feeding with its mother at the breeder's premises. Visual checks cannot be underestimated. This simple demand would minimise the risk of buying an illegally imported puppy or one that has been bred in unsuitable conditions and should form the basis of any consideration undertaken by any individual or family seeking to purchase a dog.